another hit, baby Bonds. We at it.
Coach, how you doing?
Good, Ernest. How's everything today?
Everything's going great. How about yourself, ED?
Can't complain.
Oh, I see Frank Brim has joined. What's up to the mayor of the west side of Chicago?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Frank Brim doing great things for Chicago Park District for so long. So Eric, thank you once again for joining us. We're gonna get started today. Eric Davis is the CEO of the Base Chicago out of the west side of Chicago. So there's great things for the youth throughout the whole Chicagoland area. But I'm gonna let him. He has a very unique background in sports. Very unique. So with this extraordinary athletic background, I know I got a bunch of viewers who've joined that might not know. Can you give us a little bit about your athletic background?
Sure. I grew up here in Chicago and did the things that most kids did back in the day. You know, depending on what season it was, we played that sport. And, I played basketball. I played football. I ice skated and played ice hockey. As I got a little older, cut that down to baseball and basketball, even though I love baseball. But it was so cold playing baseball here in Chicago that I kind of moved away from it, which is sad. That is my only athletic change I've left on the table, because baseball was actually the sport I loved and still love the most.
Okay.
Very fortunate to be all things that you are in high school, all city, all state. Fortunate enough that colleges offered me an opportunity to go to college based on my athletic ability. And I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to attend the University of Houston, where I played basketball, captain of that team that went to the Final Four in 1982. Very fortunate after that to sign a free agent contract to play in the NFL with the Houston Oilers. After that, I played almost 2 years of professional basketball in Europe. So, what athletics did for me is it enabled myself to get a college education with a diploma. And it's something that my parents wouldn't have been able to afford. So athletics and academics combined have really been a blessing for me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to, I know you don't toot your own horn, but I'm going to do it for you. He was a part of Five Slammer Jammer. That's the, with the Michael Jordan documentary going on, basketball is getting the limelight once again. But I just wanted to point that out and how he was able to take the stardom of the Five Slammer Jammer and everything and still play multiple sports. That's kind of going to lead me to my next question. So, you went to University of Houston, you played for the Houston Oilers. So how did you get involved with the base program?
Okay, that story, Ernest, is kind of threefold. I was a Chicago police officer too.
Okay.
And my major in school was sociology. And when I became a police officer, I went back and I worked in the Cabrini Green housing development.
Okay.
And while working there, myself and my partner decided that we wanted to start a not-for-profit to have things for kids to do. And what we did is we created this non-for-profit and this program that was really going to solely be based around baseball.
Okay.
And we used baseball for a couple of reasons. By the time I had gotten back to Chicago, in the mid-'80s, Chicago had really changed. The gang thing went from a block-to-block thing to really organized crime. Okay. And they were pulling kids into this thing really just for a simple fact, to get them some sneakers or to feed them. Because so many parents then were falling into addiction and being incarcerated, and the families were being broke up. And we decided that we had to combat that. So we started a program then called the Slick Boys. Okay. And what we did is we created this Little League program that ended up being the largest urban Little League baseball program in the country, because it included every housing development And the bigger housing developments had 2 or 3 teams, the Cabrini Greens, the Robert Taylors, the Stateways, the Altgale Gardens. And really what we wanted to accomplish out of that is simple. We practiced 2 days a week and we played games 2 days a week. We wanted to make sure that anytime the kids came to practice, we gave them a sack lunch. Anytime practice ended, we gave them another sack lunch because we knew it was as simple as feeding them. And we had thousands of kids involved in the program. And that was really when I got into the idea of how do I best impact my community. After retiring from the Chicago Police Department, I ran an organization that's a large national organization called Volunteers of America. And at Volunteers of America, we work with veterans and kids in the DCFS system and seniors in senior housing. I moved on from there and I worked with Major League Baseball.
Okay.
And at Major League Baseball, I ran the youth academy at UIC with Curtis Granderson.
Shout out
and
to
how
UIC, Randy.
Oh, yeah, he's a good bro.
Man, outstanding.
Yeah, and from there, Frank Brim and Theo Epstein and Robert Lewis said, listen, we're going to do something. And there's only a few neighborhoods we're considering to run a youth program. And I thought if they were going to tell me we're going to run this in Hyde Park, we're going to run the base in Lakeview, we're going to run the base in Lincoln Square, I would have not been interested. But when they came and they said that they wanted to run this program on the west side in North Lawndale or in West Garfield Park, and Frank Brim was already a part of it, it was natural for me to go in and assist in those efforts. And I've been ecstatic that I've done so. It's been humbling and honoring all at the same time.
Absolutely. Can you give us can you dive deep about the mission and the vision of BASE? Because I know a lot of people, once this goes to YouTube or whoever's watching now, a lot of people don't know the foundational concepts of BASE. Can you kind of dive into that for us?
Sure. What we do at the base is this. Our kids all come to the base because they love athletics. And they think, you know what, I'm going to go to a league. And the goal of Frank and I is we want to send you to a league. We want to send you to the Ivy League. So we decide to meet in the middle. We're going to give the kids a great athletic experience, but they have to work hard academically to get that. So what we provide at the base is tutoring, ACT prep, selective enrollment prep for 8th graders going to high school, and all the educational deficiencies. We just got through running a donation platform to raise funds so we could get 50 of our families Chromebooks, because many of our kids don't have devices and don't have internet service at home. And, Ernest, you have to remember for our kids who are already in a community with struggling schools and a struggling economy, many of our children, you have to remember, the last time they were really in school, it was 2019. Because what happened is that they came back from Christmas break and there was the strike. They came back from the strike and school went for about 3 weeks and then the pandemic hit. Kids that are already suffering educationally. And we really take the education portion seriously, because you wouldn't be talking to me today. My athletic piece is interesting, but the real reason I'm sitting down today is because of what I did educationally. And we're selling that, Frank and I and Paulette, we're selling that to our kids. And you know what? They're buying it and their parents are buying it. And once the kids do that, how we repay the kids is in the summertime, which we won't be able to do this year. We take our kids all over the country.
Okay.
We take them to places like Boston and New York and Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. And what we do there is if they dance, we have their dance competitions. They play baseball, we have baseball competitions. We have 7-on-7 football. We have girls softball. And we put them in front of other kids competing hard like them For them, they love the athletic part. But anytime we go to any of these cities, Ernest, there also has to be an educational component, college tour, and there also has to be a giving component, helping another community. And our kids, when they come back to Chicago, they are absolutely different people. They're different people based on their experiences, their positive experiences. And that is really the crux of the base. What we're trying to do is, in trying to create great baseball players, we're trying to even create greater human beings.
Man, and this kind of is going to my next talking point, and I'm glad you brought that up. And you've seen that episode. So I had J.P. Massey, pitcher from University of Minnesota. I had Trey Hondras, University of Michigan recruit. And the biggest thing that they both talked about was the academic piece. I recently did a podcast. It should be coming out next week, to where we talked about Black men in education. And the one thing that we all agreed on, the panelists, that we all agreed on, that when you have an athlete, academics, for some odd reason, in our culture, gets thrown to the wayside. But on the contrary, you can't do anything without that piece of paper, for layman's terms. So I'm really appreciative of what you guys are doing. I've been following you guys for the last 3 or 4 years. So I see you guys have programs in Boston, right here in the West Side, Garfield Park, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Indianapolis.
Yes.
So from you guys having programs in 4 cities, so what makes you guys different? And I heard you speak about the academic piece, but can you expound upon what makes you guys different than any other, let's say, urban youth academies or urban baseball programs throughout the country? Sure.
About 95% of our children are Black and brown children. Okay. And it's very important for our kids to be educated by people that look like them. Because really, what are we as coaches? We're teachers.
Facts.
And we're not just teaching baseball. We're teaching them life through baseball. Because we know most of our kids aren't going to go out and become Major League Baseball players. We know that that's a difficult route. But we do know that you can use baseball or football or basketball to help propel you to whatever career you're going to be in, and you'll still have that great athletic experience. I think it's important for our kids to see, the Frank Brims and the Rupert De La Cruzes, men that have walked their journey, men that are taking the time to tell them, this is the direction that you should go and this is why. When they have an excuse, to be able to say, that's an excuse. I recognize it. I know it's tough. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying someone from another culture can't be impactful and positive. I don't want you to read into that. But for me to say you should grow up to be a strong Hispanic boy, you should grow up to be a strong Black man, it only makes sense that you're seeing them.
Seeing is believing.
Absolutely. And what we try to provide are those models so our kids can follow them. And don't get me wrong again. We have a number of people that we feel are mentors, that we feel are and do make a great contribution to what we're trying to do. But we think, especially in this time, it's very important, and in particularly for Black boys, to be led and directed by Black men.
I got to give a shout out right quick. Anthony Olivo, he's the program director for the Chicago White Sox Ace. He signed in a little bit early. I got to give a big shout out to him because I know you guys do some things in conjunction and also with the Chicago Park District. So this is kind of going to lead me to my next question. So what are some struggles that the Chicago youth currently face with, let's say, getting involved in baseball and also the impact of opportunities to further their education?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a great question. And what's happening in Chicago is this. Chicago has historically been known as a basketball city, and you can get your kid to become a great basketball player here. There are enough sources and resources to do that, no matter where you are, and what's happening here with the Kenny Fulmans and the ACE program and the Luke Collier baseball and the Butler family and Dennis Butler and his boys and Curtis Granderson and Chicago Baseball and Education Academy and last but certainly not least, the Jackie Robinson West program. We are all on the same page of developing the whole player. And not just developing him as a baseball player, but developing him as a human being and giving him the story and the direction it's going to take to get to the goal that he wants to get to or she wants to get to. And now we have enough people in this city and enough organizations that are giving viable, good information and good direction. So you ask about the difficulties. There are a number of difficulties. There are many broken families. And I remember clearly who taught me how to play baseball. My grandfather, my father, and my uncles. And many of the kids that we contend with now don't have any of that in their home or near their home. I think college baseball itself is an inhibitor of urban kids playing baseball. Okay. I mean, the issue is that you have 30 kids on a college baseball team, and they have to divide 11 and a half scholarships amongst 30 kids. Yep. The typical kid that Frank and I work with at the base Chicago, the question is going to be if he wants to go to Northwestern and they give him a 25% scholarship, who's going to pay the other 75?
Exactly. On a $50,000 tuition. I'm with you.
Correct. And that has really hurt urban baseball more than anything else. And I understand Title IX, and I think that's important. But that really has hurt urban baseball. And that's what pushes kids more than anything else over to basketball and over to football. Absolutely. Because they can attain full scholarships. And along with, as you know, baseball has become very expensive.
So that's going to lead me to my next point, and this is kind of a soapbox for me. I'll say. So, I recently read that Bowling Green State and Furman University, they've canceled baseball due to the COVID-19 and the budget restrictions. And for lack of better words, this is just truly disheartening, and I'm enraged by it because similar to the point that you're talking about, to where football and basketball, COVID-19 not stopping the show. You might have to tweak, but why is it that baseball is taking a hit? So what I mean by taking a hit, we see baseball as in college, they say it's a non-money generated sport. But if you look at Major League Baseball, we're leading the way in revenue outside of soccer. I don't have the actual stats from year to year, but we say baseball players get paid the most, it's the most revenue, but college baseball, we can't fund a full scholarship. And it's always like pulling for college coaches to actually go out to the inner cities, the urban communities to recruit. So can you give me your perspective on why is baseball the first, let's say, sport to go, especially because I don't know if this is going to be a domino effect, but why is this such an economic strap for college baseball?
And to be fair, there are many schools with major football programs who are in great fear that they may not be able to play football this fall. Okay. And we do understand that football is a money generator. We do understand that a place like Ohio State or Michigan, one game pays for the scholarships for 4 years for all of their athletes. So, all of this is business. It's the business of tuition. It's the business of revenue. It's the business of TV contracts. And I think you can look out into the future at a Furman, which is a mid-level, D1 baseball program, that they can make that projection now. If things are going the way they're going, they're not going to have baseball because only the top tier baseball programs in Division I earn a little money. Okay. a little money. And it really gets down to economics. But those economics then trickle down to urban baseball because they didn't play this year. If they don't play next year, what is a kid really preparing for? But I think we know that the answer is economics. And you're going to eliminate those things that are a burden on your budget and not an asset to your budget.
So I hear you say the kids, like you made a comment about, you know, it's kind of disheartening to kids. What are they going to prepare for? So, you know, we got the term of stay ready so you won't have to get ready. You know, your coach told you that, my coach told me that.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that young baseball players can do right now during COVID-19 to stay ready for a hopeful upcoming season?
I'll tell you, I'm very fortunate to work with Frank Brim, a guy who went through the Pittsburgh Pirates system, Chicago firefighter for 30 years. And he probably is zoomed out by now, Ernest. Yep. We are continually trying to create baseball content for our kids, whether it's having motivational speakers come to mentally keep them inspired, whether we're drilling them on what they should be doing. We see on tape that some of our kids have been going out by themselves and hitting off the tee. So we're trying to get them to remain engaged with their craft, to learn the game. I think it's a wonderful time to watch MLB baseball and its reruns, to learn the history of the game, to find players and hear about their work ethics and hear about their stories, because that should inspire you as an athlete about the work ethic that you have to put in to achieve the goal that you're seeking. So for us, that's what we're doing to try to stay engaged. It looks like that Chicago might be lifting some things by next week, and Lord knows we can't wait. And if they are, we're going to get our kids in a safe manner, out working, out playing, and doing what they love.
So if someone wants to volunteer or get involved with the Base Chicago, because, you know, someone might see this and say, hey, man, I love what Eric just said. I love, you know, I want to get involved. How can someone get involved with the Base Chicago?
Well, you can reach us at www.thebase.org, or you could email myself or Frank Brim at fbrim@thebase.org, and me at edavis@thebase.org. We just had a young man just last week graduate from the University of Miami, of Ohio. And you know what? That's the Base way. We have kids that have taken the entrance exam to go to Fenwick High School. Kids from the west side of Chicago who will be going there in September. And that's the Base way. And we're really going to be excited and happy at the Base when we're seeing kids graduate medical school and get drafted in the 1st through 5th round. That's when we'll know that we've really been successful. So we're working towards that goal right now. Okay.
Well, CPD Nights Baseball, you got your brothers in blue that came on. Thank you, Chicago Police Department, for everything that you guys do. I'm going to ask because, you know, I get this a lot, right? I get a ton of emails on kids who might not be, you know, interested in baseball, but the parents want to get them involved in baseball. So if I'm a parent, how can I get my child involved with the Base?
We're located on the west side. We play our games at, we play our games at a lot of places, but we're usually at Garfield Park, and we're at Columbus Park, and we do a lot of training and practicing at Curtis Granderson Stadium. But if folks reach out to us via email or the website, www.thebase.org, we can give them our practice schedule. We actually have a clubhouse at 230 North Colmar. So we play baseball all year round. All year round, we play baseball Because if it's what you love, if you want to be a doctor, you study all year round. So if you want to be a baseball player, you have to work your craft all year round. So we do a great job with our sessions all year round, that we blend our academics and athletics. And anybody that wants to participate, because it's not just 4 kids on the West Side, it is 4 kids on the West Side. But we do have folks that come from the East Side. We have folks that come from the South suburbs. They like what we're doing, and we embrace that mix. So if you like what we're talking about, you like what we're ultimately trying to accomplish, we're taking one and all.
Okay. So I know I saw online recently you guys got you have something to do with a film coming up.
Well, you know, that's Hollywood talk. They talk about those things, but we will see. The last film that I was involved in was the production of 30 for 30.
Okay.
And that was Phi Slamma Jamma. I'm doing some things with a baseball film, and then there's some guys that are trying to do some things with myself and my partners from when we were policing. But we will see about all of that.
No, I had to give you a quick shout out. You know, it's always for a coach, and you can attest to this. Coaches really don't like cameras on them, so I picked with you a little bit about that, Ed.
Well, there's a documentary that's coming on actually this evening.
Okay. Can you give us a little bit of information about that?
Yeah, it's Chicago in the Crossroads, and it is a very serious documentary on things that have been problematic for communities like West Garfield Park. Okay. And it tells a real and passionate story about issues facing underserved communities and the why. And I think it's a good look, and I think people will enjoy it if they take a look.
Okay. So
Chicago in the Crossroads.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and virtually talk with me. Hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, both of us to get back out on the baseball field with our kids in safe practices and everything.
Yeah. Yes.
We hope everyone is staying safe. Fun fact, Eric and myself are both members of the greatest fraternity known to man, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We
Whoa.
But that's just a small tidbit. But once again, Eric, can you drop your email so if anybody sees this on YouTube, they know how to get in contact with you or get involved with the base?
Sure. We're the Base Chicago. My email is eddavis@thebase.org, and Frank Brim's email is fbrim, BRIM, @thebase.org.
Man, Eric, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Big shout out to the base. Big shout out to Frank Brim. I call him the mayor of the west side of Chicago. So
he is.
It's two sides. It's one city, 2 sides. He's the mayor of the west side of Chicago. But thank you, salute. I love everything that you guys are doing. Keep up the good work, and please stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. And once again, this is Coach E, and this was The Recess.
Thank you, Coach. Take care now.
All right.